Winter is coming, and that's concerning for anyone who is worried about higher electric bills. Electricity costs are up 2.7% nationally over the year ending in July, but they've jumped 10 to 15% for many Ohio households. The reasons go back to 1999, when state lawmakers deregulated the electricity market, and a 2008 bill that changed the regulatory structure at the Public Utilities Commission. Those were supposed to bring lower prices and innovation because of competition. I talked to Public Utilities Commission of Ohio Chair Jenifer French about that, and I started our conversation with the news of a cap on the cost to reestablish service if it's disconnected this winter at $175 plus a reconnect charge that can't be more than $36. Some advocates for lower-income Ohioans say that's too limited, and they wanted more action.
We're trying to strike a balance between preventing disconnects or making them easy to reconnect, but also not holding all the other ratepayers accountable for those that aren't paying their bill. So, if you cut off disconnections completely, somebody's going to be paying for that. And so we're just trying to strike a balance between those two things. And so that's where we came up with these figures.
Another thing you're working on is a statewide reliability report that's part of the new energy law, House Bill 15. It's required under that. It would require you to publish reliability reports that include frequency of interruption and duration, and also outlining plans to upgrade grid reliability. So all of that, what do you hope that report will tell lawmakers, ratepayers, anybody who reads it?
Sure. Nobody wants to have the lights go out, right? And so it's our job to make sure that we have reliable service to all of the ratepayers in the state of Ohio provided by their distribution utilities. And so what we're hoping is that if there are glaring issues that we haven't somehow already picked up on, that we can see it in that report. And also just everything really is about reliability and affordability. If the utilities are collecting money from ratepayers for reliability, which they do, we want to make sure that that's what they're doing with it. And, just to ensure that everybody, all the ratepayers in the state of Ohio, have reliable service.
It can be easy for ratepayers to think, well, my electricity goes off all the time. This will actually show how often it does go off potentially.
It will, yes. So it will allow us and the utilities to pinpoint certain areas. We have less reliability here than we should. And we do keep track of the reliability standards for all of the distribution utilities. But this just is one more layer of that.
It's my understanding that when the electricity market was deregulated in 1999 and then the regulatory structure of the PUCO was changed in 2008, the goal and the hope was that this would bring lower prices and innovation because of competition. That does not appear to be what has happened, at least when you look at the people's bills. Why not?
Well, I actually would say that, in Ohio, we're number 26 of 51 as far as electricity prices. So we're right there in the middle. We are less than all within our surrounding states. So energy prices do go up and do come down. And right now we're seeing an unprecedented amount of growth in that area with data centers and things like that. So I would say that we actually have really good prices in Ohio. Are they higher right now than they were 2 years ago? They are. And so, we're working on looking at different ways, working with the, utilities, the auctions, things like that. The capacity auction that PJM held certainly increased exponentially. Again, supply and demand. You have different states that have different state policies than we do. That might be taking baseload generation offline instead of putting more online. So, in Ohio, that's one of the things that House Bill 15 is doing. I've been at the PUCO for 4.5 years, and for 4 of those years, we really were not seeing any gas-fired generation applications because I also I chair the power siting board too, so we are in charge of siting generation units. And we hadn't seen any. It was all renewables, which are great, but we need it all. And so at any rate, since January, so for whatever, the House Bill 15, I think passed in April maybe, but it expanded the opportunities for behind the meter generation. And at the Power Siting Board, we've already approved, I want to say maybe 400 megawatts of behind the meter generation, and we have another 1,200 roughly in the queue. So hopefully with all that coming in, that helps to stabilize the pricing as well.
Yeah, when you have more supply coming in, then that can lower the prices,
yes.
is what you're saying basically.
Yes.
I want to ask you about data centers and other high-tech facilities, especially Intel and Meta and some of the things that we're seeing in Central Ohio, but around the state. They're not only using a lot of power, but they're expected to use a lot of power in the future. Are Ohioans paying in advance for the use of that power, even if it never happens?
So what we've done, I'll just use AEP because they're the utility that's done this, and this is a pending case in front of me, so I'm just going to give you a wide net. Basically, what happened is that AEP said, hey, we're not sure what is real and what is not, and if you're going to build out this transmission system to support these users, high consumers of electricity, we need to make sure that those costs are not borne by ratepayers. And so the data center tariff puts more of that cost on the data center specifically, so that to avoid really stranded costs later, if in fact there isn't the materialization of this that we expect.
So AEP has asked essentially to be able to recover those costs, but you can't talk about that because it's pending right now.
Correct. It is.
Most of the data centers are here in Central Ohio, but you have those all around the state, I think. I want to ask you about whether there's any data specific. Take two. All right. Speaking of data, I want to ask you if there's any data on whether energy efficiency programs that utilities were doing, and some still do in some respect, if they could have any impact on these bills. I mean, House Bill 6 got rid of a lot of those programs. Could that be affecting these costs that we're seeing now?
We haven't done any specific studies on that. I mean, energy efficiency, demand response, all of these things, they can't hurt, right? What is the degree upon which energy efficiency helps? I don't know that. I don't have those numbers in front of me. It's a great question. But we do approve some energy efficiency programs, mostly low income, in rate cases when the utilities come in for those. So we do have energy efficiency out there.
And of course, people can engage in their own energy efficiency, but is it really a situation where if you change out your light bulbs to LED light bulbs and you turn down your power or turn down your electricity,
Sure.
You know what I mean? Will that move the needle? Is that something that can really make a difference for people who are really struggling to try to pay their electric bills?
I think there's probably a lot that goes into that and a lot of variables. I know I have the thermostat that we control through our phones and use that. I think the less energy that people are using, the better for all of us probably, so it can't hurt.
But is it really enough? I mean, when people are looking at big electric bills, is that going to be enough, or are there other things that people could be doing?
I think the energy efficiency things, and that runs the gamut too, right? Re-insulating your house, changing out your windows, smart meters, all those things, smart thermostats, all those things. I don't know exactly per household how much that saves, but again, the less you're using, the less you're spending.
I want to ask you about the Apples to Apples website that the PUCO operates, which allows people to compare for electric, for gas. There's this report from Ohio State that said that it really doesn't result in savings to consumers. I want to ask you about that and where you stand on that.
Sure. First of all, you raise a really good point. So it is incredibly important that people educate themselves on this topic because there are a lot of different programs out there, and we do have them all on our Apples to Apples website, on our website, and it's called Apples to Apples. And what it does is it lays out, is it a variable rate? Is it a fixed rate? Is it green energy? Is it not? So variable, right? So it lays that out so people can go in and look at it. We also have our call center, and our call center explains kind of how that works if somebody's confused. We get a lot of calls on our Apples to Apples portion of our website, and it just depends. So sometimes, you might have this offer for power, for generation, that is higher than the standard service offer. Maybe it's because, though, it's green energy. Maybe not. I mean, so, at any given time, there's so many offers out there that people really need to educate themselves or call us to help us to educate, them and get that out there. I can tell you that our public relations team is out all the time at different fairs, at different events, they're really everywhere, and they're trying to educate people on this issue, on their supplier choice, if they should choose to do that.
And just like with anything, you do have to read the fine print. You have to shop. If you're going to change, there are some offers that require a fee if you disconnect early or if you change early or whatever. You have to look around that these teaser rates and some of these lower rates may not be what you think they are.
That's exactly true. I mean, the devil's in the details, right? And so, again, and sometimes there are offers, oh, you'll get this kind of credit card or debit card or gift card or whatever it is. And that entices people, and that might be a good deal, and it might not. So, we really, really encourage people to go to the website and then to call our call center if they still need some additional guidance.
And there's a big difference between generation cost, distribution cost. You have to look at all those things, and just because you switch suppliers, that doesn't mean you eliminate all those costs.
Correct.
Yeah, and I think that can be what's confusing to people, is why are there these different costs? And that is related to the deregulation process.
It is, yes.
I want to ask you too, I don't know if you can weigh in on legislation at all, but House Bill 427 would allow ratepayers to opt into programs that would allow electric companies to reduce their power consumption during peak periods. There was a similar bill last session that would allow them to opt out. This would allow them to opt in. Is that something that the PUCO can weigh in on?
For our position at the PUCO, we don't generally speak for or against any type of legislation. We are here for technical advice, should be requested to provide any by our legislators or anybody else for that matter. So I don't have an opinion for it or against it. I'm very familiar with the bill. And again, though, I mean, it's voluntary. I understand that. So, and that's a good thing. And depending upon the volume, it could help. So demand response, we've seen it with our big industrial users. It's very effective. Now, how effective is it at a residential level? Well, I think if you have enough residents that are doing it, it could probably be very effective. So, but as far as my position on the bill, I don't have one other than to just be supportive of.
In your experience with dealing with the industrial users, if this did go into effect and people would opt into it at the residential level, would people have to worry about their heat being turned off during peak periods, or their air conditioning being turned off?
I don't think so. I think we would probably be talking a few degrees. I don't think anybody's ever going to have their AC turned off, because the whole point is to keep all that stuff on, right? And so, no, I don't think anybody would have to worry about that.
And finally, as we're going into the winter season, are you concerned about, again, these bills that are coming? There's a lot of people who are very worried about how they're going to make these payments. Are you concerned about what's going to happen to some of these folks?
Of course. I will tell you that generally before every heating season, I talk to all of our utilities, our gas and electric utilities, because we have programs and they have certain income thresholds. And so we have like the PIP program, percentage of income payment plan, where somebody can only pay up to 10% of their salary for their bill, their electric bill, regardless what it is, okay? And then as long as they keep paying, part of it will be forgiven. So we have programs for certain income levels, but there's this gap, right, between people that don't qualify for those programs because they make too much money, but also are struggling. And so I like to meet with the utilities to see what other programs do you have, so that our call center is equipped with the ability to say, okay, you make too much for PIP, but we can, AEP can offer this, or Duke is offering that, or whatever utility that it is. Because yes, we're very concerned, and we don't want anyone to not have power in the winter.
And there are also federal programs that do help in this area as well, right?
Yes.
Are you concerned about cuts in those coming?
I think we're going to have to see what happens. Anything that makes it more difficult for people who are struggling, of course, we want to be there to help.
If you'd like to see the interview I referenced with Ohio State University Associate Professor of Public Policy Noah Dorbady about his research into high utility costs, including his work looking into the Apples to Apples page on the PUCO's website, you can check out our archives at statenews.org.